Okay, boys and girls, so you did a great job on your first day working at your research project, and now we are on Tuesday, and we want to talk briefly about the difference between a first-hand and a second-hand account. So right now you're looking at an anchor chart that kind of displays the differences between these two. I know that you've probably talked with your teacher about first-hand and second-hand accounts, but just to kind of refresh our memory, we know that a first-hand account is coming from someone who was there. Right here you can see that it's also known as a primary source, meaning the person was there, they experienced the event, and they are now writing to report about it, maybe their own experience or what they witnessed, but it is a description of an event from someone who was there to experience it. Some common examples might be some autobiographies or diary entries. We also find a lot of first-hand accounts written in the form of letters or interviews. There's even videos or photos of an event. So we know that the difference between first-hand and second-hand then is that second-hand is referring to somebody who did some research or was told by somebody who was there. This person was not actually experiencing the event that they are reporting on. This is also known as a secondary source. We can see this right here next to this little girl. Some common examples of second-hand accounts can be found in biographies. Again, those are books that are written about other people. History textbooks, reports, movies, encyclopedias, or even drawings of an event. So as readers, when we are looking at text, we need to ask ourselves, who wrote the account? Was the author there or present when the event happened? So now we're going to kind of switch over and talk about our text and really focus again on that immigrant, John Muir, and his journey over here to America. Remember, he left from Scotland. And we're going to look at a first-hand and second-hand account from John Muir and see if we can identify the difference between the two. First-hand and second-hand accounts. Now we're going to apply that to our research, and we are going to focus right now on John Muir. Remember, we're kind of modeling and using John Muir as our immigrant, and then you guys are going to apply that to the immigrant that you have decided to further research. So let's get started. We're now back in the textbook, and I know that I have to kind of remind myself about John Muir's journey over here to America. And I know that right here in this section of the text, they're really kind of giving us an introduction, who he was and where he came from. But I do remember that I believe on this page, the text gets more in depth discussing his journey here to America. So this is where I might find more information that might help guide me, because our goal today, boys and girls, we are going to use the information from the second-hand account here that gives us information about Muir and his family and their journey to America to now write our own first-hand account. So the first thing I need to do is I need to look here in this text and remind myself kind of what his journey was like. So I'm under this section, To the New World. I know that the heading To the New World means these paragraphs right here are going to be all about his journey coming to America. So let me reread that, and I want you to follow along. It took 6 weeks to cross the ocean by ship. John's father and sister stayed below with the old folk, but John and his brother went on deck. They watched the sailors and played with the other boys. The ship carried many immigrants, people who were moving from their original country to North America. John's father had planned to settle in Canada, but when he heard about the fine soil in the state of Wisconsin, he made that their destination. Wisconsin had just become part of the United States the year before. Now I'm even going to focus in here on this map and look at the caption. After a long voyage across the Atlantic Ocean, John Muir and his family traveled more than 1,600 kilometers. That's 1,000 miles to the middle of Wisconsin. So going back to the idea of first-hand and second-hand account, boys and girls, when we look at this text, I know that this is a second-hand account because this is someone just reporting information about this immigrant by the name of John Muir. It's not using the words I or we or me. So again, when I'm thinking to myself, like good readers should, who's telling the story? Like, who's the author here? It's not John Muir. This is someone who was not there at the time, not on that boat with him or his family. They did not witness his experience. They're just reporting back on what they've researched and what they've learned. So my job now is to think about some of this information, such as their journey was 6 weeks long. And his father and his sister, remember, they were staying down below with like the older folks. I don't know if old folk is really nice, but they were staying down further down on the ship. And John and his brother, they were up on top, like up on the deck. They're watching the sailors and they're even playing with other boys. Hopefully you're even creating like a visual in your mind right now of what that might look like. We know that the ship is carrying many immigrants, and we also know that they're leaving Scotland and they're coming to North America. They're planning to stop in Canada, but now they've heard about this fine soil in Wisconsin, and they know that now that's their destination. So once they arrive, they're not going to go to Canada. They are going to travel over here to Wisconsin. So now, boys and girls, our job is to now look at our trifold. And we are going to turn this information that we've just read and learned about John Muir from a second-hand account into a first-hand account. So follow me over to the trifold and let's get started. Okay, so here we are, boys and girls, and we've just learned a little bit more about John Muir. Again, we have to revisit that text, and you will have to do the same today when you go back and reread information about the immigrant that you've decided to focus on this week. And today we're going to be working in this middle section of our trifold, so I'm going to zoom in, and you can see here at the top it says first-hand account from blank. So on your trifold, you're going to need to write the same information, and if you guessed it, you're correct. We're going to put our immigrant's name here so that our teacher knows which immigrant we are referring to. So in our case, teachers are using John Muir. Before I jump in and get started, I'm going to set my pencil down for a minute, and I need to remind myself, what did I learn in the text about John Muir? Well, I remember it saying that it took 6 weeks, right? They were traveling for 6 weeks, and they planned to arrive in New York, but then basically they were planning on ending up in Canada. And his dad and his sister, they were down below, right? They said they were down below on the boat with like the older folks, and John and his brother, they were up on the top deck of the boat. They were busy watching like the sailors, and they were even playing with other boys. So they're trying to stay busy. They're very busy and just trying to pass probably that time. 6 weeks on a ship is a long time to travel. I also remember hearing that their destination changed slightly. So their journey changed. They were planning on going to Canada, but then when his dad learned about that like rich soil over in Wisconsin, they decided that that would be their final destination. Now I've got a lot of information I can use from that second-hand account, and our job today is to turn that into a first-hand account. So as we learned earlier when we were looking at that anchor chart, a first-hand account is told from that person, the one who experienced the journey, meaning in our case, from our immigrant. Mine is going to reflect the journey of John Muir, told from his perspective. So I'm going to use the information I learned in the text, and I want you to follow along. Right now you're not writing anything, just follow along. So let's see. I am now John Muir. I know I've been on a ship for 6 weeks. I'm busy playing with other boys and my brother. Okay, I can do this. It's been 6 weeks. And we should be arriving in New York soon. Sorry for the bell. Again, do you see the difference? It's no longer like a reporter saying that John Muir was a boy that traveled on a ship for 6 weeks with his family. Now we are John Muir. We should be arriving in New York soon. Let's keep going. My father and sister have spent time below on the ship with the old folk. And my brother and I have stayed busy up on deck watching sailors and playing with other boys. The last part that I want to include is the part about his family deciding that they're going to settle or that their final destination will be in Wisconsin. My father heard about rich soil in Wisconsin. And this is where we will live. Now I might just end up with like, I can't wait to start our new life. Okay. That was quite a bit of writing, boys and girls. Yours might not be quite as long, but again, what's really important here is that we're able to take the information that we learn about our immigrant. In our case, we were talking about John Muir. Obviously, yours is going to be different. And then we've taken that information from a second-hand account, and we were able to now turn that into a first-hand account. This is your opportunity to be creative, boys and girls. Imagine that you are now the immigrant that you are researching, and you are describing for us your journey. All right. If you need to refer to the picture, we will have it uploaded for this completed section of our trifold.